Welcome back to Wishwell Farms. Today is our first tomato harvest of 2021. These plants are absolutely loaded. And you got to pull back the branches and leaves to be able to see them all. There's clusters everywhere you look. Beautiful. And they are so sweet. When these ripen and turn red, they're so delicious. Much sweeter than a cherry tomato. We've grown cherry tomatoes before, and people often ask us why don't we grow cherry tomatoes, because I can hardly sell them compared to grape tomatoes. Grape tomatoes, for us at our farmers markets around Columbus, Ohio, are just way more popular, and we get lines and lines of people gobbling these things up off the table, and usually within an hour or two on a Saturday morning they are gone. The variety of grape tomatoes that we grow are Jolly Girl, and we also grow some Ruby Crush that we're going to be trialing over here on these final 2 rows that we haven't planted yet. These are all Jolly Girl. They are a determinate variety, which means they're not going to grow and grow and need trellised up by string trellis up above. These will normally stop right around the top of the T-post, if not a foot or 2 higher than the T-post. We use the Florida weave stringing method to hold the plants up in place. So you can see we've already got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stringings on this. And when we're all said and done, we'll probably have 4 more and we'll be up about this high, about 7 feet. So harvest has just begun. You can see here we got some color coming on these clusters. They're really nice, they're really loaded, really strong, healthy plants, and the fruit load looks really good this year. Haven't had any disease pressure or insect pressure whatsoever in here as of yet. So let's see if we can find some nice red grape tomatoes being picked in here today. These plants were seeded on January 1st, I believe, maybe the 2nd. And you know, it's April 26th today, and we just started harvest. It's going to be probably 2 weeks before they really get ramped up and we're picking hundreds and hundreds of pounds to sell at the farmers markets. But it's always nice to have that first harvest finally start in the spring, knowing that we're only weeks away from actually having some cash flow finally on the farm. As you can see, as I'm walking down these rows, all of the yellow flowers, I mean, they are just absolutely loaded. There's going to be an amazing amount of fruit coming out of this greenhouse. We will pick hundreds of pints of grape tomatoes every other day throughout the summer. So even though we only got like 6 pints today, you know, it always starts out kind of slow. It'll ramp up very quickly as we get longer days and more heat. And I remember last year there was a couple days where we got over 400 pints just in one picking. So these things are very productive and make us some pretty good money at the farmers markets. Now you'll notice that we are using cocoa, which is coconut coir, grow bags for our growing media. And there are 3 slots in every bag. These bags are about 3 foot long, and they have squares notched out on top. And I can pull this back and show you what the coconut coir looks like. It almost looks like soil. And we set the rock wool tomato cubes right on top of these slits in the bag, and all the root system is down in here in these coconut coir bags. And you can see we have 2 different kinds this year. These are some leftovers from last year. The in green coir, and on this side we have the Millennium Soils coir. And to be honest with you, I can't tell the difference between the 2. The bag size is slightly different. That's about the only difference I notice. We just use standard greenhouse ground cover on the flooring, and underneath is bare dirt, a little bit of gravel, but it's mainly bare dirt because you can see here there's holes every 2.5 feet that we burnt into the ground cover, because originally we planted our tomato plants in the soil in here, but it just was not working out very well, so we decided to go hydroponic in here, and that's why we just use the grow bags now, and we lay them out right across those holes so we don't have to deal with the weeds that will grow up in those holes, and we don't have to replace the ground cover. And the way that the feed solution is brought in to feed the tomatoes comes from underground right here up to the main greenhouse where we mix all our fertilizers, and then there's just a regular valve here like we use in our field with like a drip line and a drip emitter for each plant. So you can see down through here There is a emitter, hose, and stake for every plant. Every once in a while, it's a good thing to come down here and open that up. See all the junk that came out? Just to flush out any fertilizer residue that kind of builds up over time. That helps prevent the drippers from getting plugged up. This is a double poly greenhouse, which means it has 2 layers of plastic with inflators that inflate air between the 2 layers to create an insulative layer from the cold outside. Everything's automated in here, and it is cooled by thermostats that tell these 2 louvers at one end to open up when it's a certain temperature, and then in the back there's 2 exhaust fans that will draw the fresh air from the outside through the greenhouse and pull out all the humid, moist air that actually can be detrimental to the tomatoes if it gets too hot and humid. It can sometimes cause splitting of the fruit, and it can increase the disease pressure on the foliage of the tomato plants. The propane heater is right there. So yes, we heat with propane, and this fan jet, this convection tube with a fan jet at that end, distributes the heat evenly throughout the entire greenhouse. This greenhouse is a little different than some of our other ones. If you look real close, it's almost got like a rectangular tubing. I can't remember the name of the company who produces this greenhouse, but I believe it's in Canada. So, you know, they know what they're doing up there in Canada. You know, where there's lots of heavy snow load in the wintertime, they have to build a sturdy structure to be able to withstand the weight of the snow in the wintertime. And this holds up in the wind really well, too. So I really like the structure. We bought it used up in Wooster, Ohio, probably 3 or 4 years ago. I had to go tear it down, move it to my location, have a pad excavated, and put it all back together. It was like taking a puzzle apart and rebuilding the puzzle. Ready to take down this greenhouse. It's gonna be quite a feat. I got 4 hours today to work on it, and a full 8 hours tomorrow. 95 feet long. It was not fun, but you know, we got a pretty good price on it. It's always better to buy used versus new if you're able to, because it's so much cheaper to do it that way. And I do have a video of us building this greenhouse. It's a time-lapse video. I will put it up here in the cards if you want to see that, and at the end of the video. Things are looking really good in greenhouse number 1. They're loaded down with lots of green fruit, and I'm hoping to be harvesting here in about a week or 10 days. And here's a quick look at greenhouse number 2. Most of the fruit in here is around golf ball size, so it's a ways off yet, which is what we want. We usually don't start harvesting a whole lot in here until June. But you can see there's a few tomatoes that are getting some size to them. So usually around mid-June into the July 4th weekend, these things really start hitting really hard, and that really helps us out because greenhouse number 1 is kind of fizzling out about that time, so these usually come on just in the nick of time when we need lots of tomatoes. Alrighty, that's going to wrap it up. Just wanted to give you a quick look at our grape tomato greenhouse and a little bit of our very first harvest of 2021. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it, and we'll see you again down on the farm real soon.